Namaste everyone. Very warm welcome to this podcast today. Guru Shri Guruji Ji ki Jai, Ananda Ji ki Jai, Sangha ki Jai. So I posted the Hangout link as well as the YouTube link on the Sangha message thread as well as on the Sangha Being page. So if any of you want to join the Hangout, you are very welcome to do so. Namaste, dear. Namaste, beloved. So I actually have no idea what I'm going to talk about today. Okay. So one of the things that I have been contemplating for a while, and it is something that some teachers often speak about, is the thing of what do we really want. It seems like sometimes we are searching, we are going about things, we're seemingly asking the right questions, we're seemingly doing the right things, right practices, right techniques. But as Babaji said, if at the root of all of these things is an avoidance, we'll never be able to find what we truly want. And avoidance is not in the sense of, sometimes the mind tricks us into thinking we are avoiding something. That's not the avoidance that I'm talking about. The avoidance that I'm talking about is almost a sense of a deep no to the truth. You know, if in our heart truth is what we want, if there's a strong sense of surrender, ultimately, no matter what resistances come up, no matter what fears come up, ultimately, it's always in our heart. It's thy will be done. We are very clear about this. We're very clear about this, and that I feel is like the central aspect of the teaching. Is that thy will be done. We may take a little bit of time to understand the implications of this statement, but ultimately it is that we are completely surrendered in the heart. Namaste, Amba.
Namaste. Very happy to be here, Ria. Thank you.
Very happy to have you. So also the other thing I want to say is, please feel free to unmute and just contribute any point that you feel like you want to say something. As well as people on the YouTube as well, just start typing if you feel like there's something you want to say. Atma says the sound is not so good, like too much noise. So I've come a little close to the mic. I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, the sound is not very clear here either.
The sound is not very clear.
Yeah, I was just here for Ram's broadcast, right? It was much better out there.
I
Sound
see.
then.
I see. I don't know. Is it better now?
Just speak again.
Is it okay now? Is it better now?
It's slightly better, yes.
Okay. So what I've done is I have just drawn the mic closer to me. My face looks quite big here, but at least you guys can hear me okay. Atma's asking Rashmi is there. Yes, Rashmi is here on the hangout. Rashmi and Amba are here. So Atma, you're also welcome to join the hangout if you feel like. I know Nitya has some sound issues on the hangout. So I was just sharing that the central aspect of this teaching, as Mujiji says, he quite simply, in a very simple way, says that ultimately, if you have a yes in your heart, everything will be resolved. And this whole teaching is centered on the yes in the heart. sometimes, we do seemingly have resistances to find out certain things. And, I have to say at this point that resistances are very much a part of the journey. If none of us had any resistances, I don't think we would have taken any time to wake up to the whole truth. Atma says, when I get the phone there, I will. Okay. So the other thing also I want to talk about is at what point do we get convinced that a resistance is ours? It's another thing if we say that I want this resistance to be mine. And it's clear a lot of us in satsang don't have that attitude. We're not saying that I want this resistance to be mine. We are saying somehow something is convincing me that this resistance is mine. Somehow some mental noise is convincing me that this is me. So at what point do we say that? At what point do we say that a certain resistance belongs to us? So this is a contemplation that's been happening here as well. At what point do we say, and I performed an experiment with this once, and I had this analogy. I said, okay, if a certain tendency is almost seeming like mine, I should call it into the witness box and I should ask it for evidence as to why I feel like it's mine. Is it not? If I'm believing something to be me, it has to give me evidence. When I say I am, when I say I exist, just through that knowledge, I know that I exist. I don't need any proof. However, if a feeling is appearing and somehow it is convincing me that this feeling is mine, it has to give me evidence as to why it belongs to me. So, in a very simple way, in a very, in a fun way, without indulging in too much effort, we can say, why do I feel like you are mine? We can ask this question: why do I feel like you are mine? Sometimes, initially, soon after, the awakening process, for a lot of us, we identify with the peace. So as soon as the peace is lost, we say that, I have lost myself. As soon as there's some disturbance, in the body or, in the mind, we say that that disturbance is me. Is the sound okay, or is it still?
The sound's okay now. Thank you.
So we need to really look into this question as to what is convincing me that a certain tendency is mine. At what point do we begin to call ourselves a person as well? Actually, one of the other things is that it is Atma says, I still have the resistance towards my father. It will always be here till the end, most probably. Yeah, she's laughing at it. I guess in that laughing itself, somehow it's not much of a resistance. So what I meant to say is more in the lines of, what is the goal of our search? What is it that we want? What is it that we want from this journey? And we are spending a lot of time on this journey. For a lot of us, it's a joy as well. I'm not taking that away, but I'm saying, what is it that we want? What is it that we hope to achieve? Usually, for example, when we take up a job, we say that, my aim for taking up this job is because, I can get a certain amount of money, I can take care of my family, I can buy a car. And Amba says, burnt ropes can't trouble you. Yeah. Yeah. Burnt rope cannot trouble us. So I feel like, it's very good to clarify this before we start the search in a way. But I think for a lot of us, this question is is not very relevant because we are quite in depth, we are quite in the search already. But I also mention this question because we can sometimes, be very much in the journey, yet there's a feeling that, thy will be done, yet if you can follow my wishes, it will be nice. We have this feeling sometimes. We say that, thy will be done, but still I want this. And that's not really much of a surrender, right? Atma says, yes, my love, I know it. Just I see it. Yes. So to the proportion of our openness will be the proportion of our seeing, if I can, if I can say it that way. The other thing it also seems like is, when we first hear the teaching, we hear things like, don't be a person, be consciousness. We hear things like that, and we also hear much like Ram is here as well. Namaste, bro.
Namaste.
So when we hear the teaching initially, there's much of the things that are being said are, there's almost a distinction between the person and the consciousness, so to say. A lot is being spoken about how consciousness interacts in the world, how consciousness experiences certain things, how consciousness is moving through life, so to say. And there's also a contrast given to saying how a person does things. And I feel like all of us know how a person does live. I think we're all very experienced in the personhood domain, and that's why we're here. But somehow, even this distinction, in a way, at a certain point, is only a pointer. When we come to satsang initially, we need to have this distinction so that we understand at what point, are we slipping back into personhood? At what point we are getting caught up in the old way of living, the old regime of functioning. But at a certain point, we can even ask ourselves, at what point do I become a person? Because it almost seems like, as long as we're convinced that we can become a person, we can keep seeking. We can keep seeking something that we don't even know what we're seeking for. We just, say that I don't want to be a person. And I just want to keep seeking because of that. And just in the seeking itself, the whole personhood is still functioning very actively. So we can ask ourselves, at what point do I become a person? Does belief make me a person? Does thinking make me a person? Does thought make me a person? Does a strong feeling make me a person? Does momentary identification make me a person? So even the one who calls himself a person is itself also the person, is it not? See, Amba says, nothing can make you a person. Absolutely. Absolutely. Nothing can make you a person. And the best part is nothing ever made you a person. Even when you're completely caught up in the mind, like maybe say even a few years before you even knew anything about spirituality, about consciousness, any of these things, even then, when you're completely caught up, it's just consciousness functioning. So that's the beauty of it, and in a way, knowing this, we completely slip back into the world, and into our old lives as well, in a way that nothing ever happened. And we say this, isn't it? This is one of the central aspects also, is that nothing ever happened. If nothing ever happened, that means suffering also didn't happen. Personhood also never happened. I am slipping back into my old life, like I am the same being, yet with this understanding. There is no distinction between the old me and the new me. It was just consciousness functioning. It's consciousness functioning even now. The only difference is I seem to know it now. Just in a way that nothing ever happened. And we say this, isn't it? One of the people have. Atma says, no, nothing makes me a person. No more that delusion. Just sometimes anger comes, but not to the person. Yes, it just comes. Yes, that's very beautiful. Actually, all of these things, right? Even suffering coming, and me suffering, believing, and all of that also never came to a person. It just came. It just came. And also the movement from suffering to wanting the freedom was not a personal choice. I used to feel for a long time, it was a personal decision that I made. The decision to be free. the decision to be free from delusions. I used to think that, I used to feel very nice about it as well, and I used to, reiterate the story. I wanted to go all the way. I used to say things like that, but it was just consciousness, feeling that, something was amiss. It was not even like that, it was not saying that something was amiss either, because, the way consciousness sees this, and, I repeated this even in my last podcast. One of the first teachers that I came across, he said, life is a movement from perfection to perfection, from completeness to completeness. So even in our suffering, something is absolutely complete. Even in our despair, even in our grief, something is absolutely complete and full. We are not seeking, we are not moving because of the feeling that something is incomplete. That is just an assumption that something is incomplete. So, when Ram was iterating this in his broadcast, Aparna was asking this question as well. What does it mean to act from the place of consciousness? To act from the place of consciousness simply also means is that we're not identifying with any beliefs in incompleteness. Perfectness to perfectness. I love that. It's so true. Actually, it's Dr. Hawkins. I think Ram should also know. Amba says, before enlightenment, shop would carry water. After enlightenment, shop would carry water. I think it's a Zen saying. Yes. Very beautiful. Muji has a variant of this. He says, before enlightenment, chopping wood. After enlightenment, chopping wood, but no wood chopper. Atma is saying namaste to Ram and Jyotika. So we have to understand what does it mean to function from the place of consciousness. It doesn't mean that we're not going to have thoughts. It doesn't mean that there won't be temporary identification. It's just that consciousness functions from a place of completeness, and we all have functioned from a place of completeness. And there's this other thing that I keep also talking about that I want to reiterate again. It was J. Krishnamurti. He said that if the seed of your movement is want, even once the action is completed, the want is never fulfilled. What is grown from the seed of want breeds a tree which only bears the fruit of want. If the root of your action is fear, even once the action has taken place, the action brings only fear. So we are not concerned with the action here. We are only concerned with the assumptions behind the action. So we are not concerned with the seeking. We are not concerned. When a master is asking us to stop seeking, he's not asking us to stop the movement. Even he knows better that a movement cannot be stopped, an action cannot be stopped. But he's only saying, question your assumptions about the seeking. Question the fact that something is incomplete. Question the fact that something is not already here. So it is to this assumption that he's speaking. So in all our contemplations, in our explorations, in all the things that we are looking at, it is completely clear that we're not looking at it from the place that something is missing. We are looking at it because we can. We are looking at it because it's our joy. It's one of the beautiful aspects of a human mind that it can so beautifully delude itself, and it can come out of itself and enjoy that game too. And we are contemplating just because it's possible. The truth loves to look at itself in infinite ways. So there was a time when I used to feel like, the moment I started to contemplate, I used to feel like, but the teaching is stopped. Why am I contemplating? Maybe I'm still seeking. I used to feel that way. I used to feel that, something has to stop. Why hasn't it stopped? I still feel like I want to, look at things. Then I realized it's just the moment of life. It is just, it's a part of its harmony to move. Of course, we can question the assumptions behind it. Once the assumptions are questioned, we are free to swim wherever we want to. And as long as we're convinced that nothing can make us a person, we can just completely have the freedom to live in any which way we want to. And I don't mean this in a very egoic way. I just mean that when nothing can make me a person, I can think. I can even think, I don't have to hate thinking. I'm not against thinking. I'm not against life, thinking is an aspect of life too. So completely having merged with life, what can I be against? And what can be against me? thought cannot be against me. Amba says, it's like consciousness naturally grows or evolves itself. Yes. I remember this as well when I met Mudiji in November this time. He said that life corrects itself. It was very beautiful because he said that, it's somehow the implication, it sounds like a very simple statement, but the implications are that it's completely impersonal process. It has nothing to do with my intentions, my beliefs, my assumptions. It's just doing what it does. We can condemn the action of a tiger for killing a deer, but the tiger is going to do what it's going to do. It is just the way it moves. It's its dharma. It's just the way it functions. So we are correcting ourselves. We are exposing things. So we are bringing it to the fire of satsang, so to say, not because only without this I'll be free. It's because that it's my joy to do so. Amba says we get to witness consciousness growing like watching a flower grow or something. Yes. It is like that, isn't it? It just blooms out of nowhere. And if you look at the bud of a flower, it's just as beautiful as well. I mean, the way we are conditioned to look at, we somehow, we are used to look at it that only when something is full in the way that we project it, we say that, oh, it's done, it's complete, it's beautiful. But even as a bud, it's so beautiful, so full of potentiality, so full of possibilities. This other thing that I like as well. A lot of us we love the season of autumn when the leaves are falling, and that is a seeming metaphor sometimes in life that it is a seeming metaphor to old age. Yet we don't look at old age the same way. We don't look at crisis the same way. Crisis is just that things are falling away. It's just like autumn, isn't it? And we appreciate autumn so so much, and it's so beautiful, isn't it? Just the golden brown leaves everywhere. So if it's clear to us that there is no problem anywhere, then it's just life moving. Life just beating this heart, right in this instant, just beating this heart, breathing this body. Life just wanting to know more about itself. Life just wanting to inquire. We can do this exercise, sometimes also we say that, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, like I did this, I did that, I got caught up here, I didn't get caught up here. We speak in such a way sometimes just, to change the tone of it. For a few minutes, we can just sit down and say consciousness is this. Consciousness is breathing. Consciousness wants to eat something. Just to see that how it's impersonal. Not to become the Alberta police, It is just an impersonal flowering. And wherever anyone is, at whatever stage in development or whatever stage in satsang that they are in, they are completely always this. Yet, consciousness loves to be a certain way. If someone is seemingly deluded, that is the choice that they have made as consciousness. We can look back at our lives. We can look back at our lives at all the times that we've held on to things, sometimes consciously and sometimes unconsciously. And if we go back to the root of it, it was a feeling that something just felt very natural to hold on to. Something felt very instinctual. Something felt okay as well. And sometimes we also know this, right? So that's why we justify our attachment. We justify our fears. We say that, of course. People, they say that, of course, I'm going to be scared if I lost my job. And it's consciousness, just completely believes in that instant, so to say. what I'm trying to get at ultimately is that it's just an impersonal flooring. Anyone has something else to say? So I like very much what Ram was saying in the previous broadcast. He said, although it sounds like a monologue, it's always an exploration for him. And it's the same way for me. It's never, it's never for me that, I'm teaching someone something or I'm talking about something. It's never like that. So just to give an example of how this completeness functions, sometimes, I remember Father saying that every time he speaks in satsang, for him it feels like it's complete. Everything that had to be said has been said. Yet he says the next time he comes and finds himself talking about something else. Maybe the same thing again. And it's not because something is left to be said, because everything is being said yet it needs to be said. And I think we all are kind of familiar with this. Amba says it's a little difficult to hear what you're saying. Is it better now?
I don't know if it's better. I can hear you when you say a short sentence, but when you're speaking like a long sentence, it's kind of like muffled. So I don't know if it's better until you talk. So.
I think it's my internet connection, but don't know what to do about it.
Yeah, there's some sort of like a hazy noise.
A disturbance?
Yeah, some white noise, I think.
Some white noise. Is it okay now?
I think it's better.
It's better.
I think if you speak louder, I think it's better.
Speak louder.
Loudly, yeah. If you speak loudly,
Can you speak a little loudly? Actually, it feels like I'm yelling here. No, I was just saying how Father says, after every satsang, he says that it's complete. He said everything that he needed to say, and yet in the next satsang, he finds himself talking about things again, And it's a very beautiful example of how life moves from completeness to completeness. It is never moving because it's imperfect. It sees perfection in everything, And this is also a part of our satsang, right? If we have seen our past itself, and this is another beautiful thing that Byron Katie says. She says, what is in the past is projected onto the future, so to say. And she says, if I can't love my past, how can I love my future? So, if we look at our past, if we are completely in love with our past, in a way, we are in love with every being in the world. Because pretty much in our past, we would have seen a lot of the beings. It's the same tendencies, isn't it? We all want to be noticed. We all want to be loved. We all want to be taken care of. We all want to be appreciated. We all want to be that little bit special, just a little bit. It's the same problems. The stories are different. So if I'm not in love with that aspect of myself, how can I love other beings? How can I ever be compassionate to them? So the other thing it seems to me is that the only way to really meet the mind is through compassion. We can never truly completely meet the mind through understanding. That understanding has to we'll never be able to completely meet the mind because the mind is infinite. I spoke about this also in the previous broadcast, that as evolved we become, so to say, even the mind becomes evolved. The newer insights that we tend to have in satsang, even the mind gets all that information. The mind is taking birth in us. So if we are infinite, even the mind has to be infinite. In fact, there's other, the Buddhist schools, for instance, they refer to consciousness as the mind, so the capital M. And I like that description because there is no mind and consciousness. There is the big mind. It can function as the little mind or it can function as itself. But there is only that. So, having said all that, what do we feel is still incomplete? What do we still feel is imperfect? We can have the biggest problems, right? We can have all the biggest problems. We may still have fears, but what is incomplete? I'm not talking about not having fear. I'm not talking about not having resistances. I'm not talking about not having beliefs, suffering. I'm asking what is incomplete. Can we refer to something as incomplete without using a thought? Can we ever say that something is incomplete without having an idea of what complete is? It's beautiful in a way, isn't it? The way the whole mind functions. It's always referring to itself. If we get to the root of it, it's like if God were to come down to this earth and ask, "Do you know who's God?" I say, "No, I don't know. Maybe Amba knows." Amba says, "Maybe Jyotika knows." Jyotika says, "Maybe Ram knows." Ram says, "Maybe Rashmi knows." Rashmi says, "Maybe I know." And thoughts are like this. They all seem to be saying, that guy knows, but nobody knows anything. It's just thoughts. They all are talking about each other. They're not really talking about what's happening. She says beyond complete and incomplete. Yes, it's very beautiful. Yes, it's not even complete. Yes, it's very beautiful. Amba says yes, nobody knows anything at all. Thoughts are that, isn't it? It's like always, in computer programming they have this thing called self-referencing. It causes cycling. It's like one thing refers to another, the other thing refers to another, the other thing refers to another, and the last thing refers to the first one. So the whole thing becomes like a recursive loop. It's just like it keeps running without really, the program never stops. It just keeps running. The mind is like a bug. It just keeps running. I've been saying this more and more that this is it right now. This is it, supreme reality. It can't be different than this. If it is different than this, then I'm not interested. I've hit the lottery right here, right now. Every moment I'm hitting the lottery. Atma says, my only fear is that life is too long and that it will never finish. My only fear is that life is too long and that it will never finish. She's laughing at the end of it, so maybe, she's just sharing it. Life is too long. On similar lines, actually, I had this other contemplation. Amba says, my brother said to me the other day, time flies when you're having fun. So if we are too happy, life will be over too quick. Yes. Yes. The other thing, that I was contemplating this with Ram. I don't know if the contemplation, reached a meaningful conclusion, so to say, but it was the thing with attention and time. It seems like we Namaste Soham. You're welcome to join the Hangout as well. I think there's this contemplation of Rupert, where he says, do you ever experience it there? Do you ever experience it then? Do you ever experience anything else but here and now? In fact, as Father says, even here and now takes birth in this. So can I ever experience the next second? What do I have to refer to myself to be moving in the next second? It is clear that ever since I was little, the body was little, so to say, the sense I am has been the same. Hasn't aged, hasn't changed. So if this is who I am in this realm, how can I age? How can time pass? In this, how can anything change? What can change? How can I become perfect or imperfect? How can I become whole or incomplete? How can I die or be born again? How can I experience anything else apart from this vibrating current of peace? How can I go anywhere? Namaste, Govind. So the whole experience of life, it seems like, is Atma says the connection is getting worse and worse. Hardly see you and hear you. Let's see this. On my YouTube, it seems like the video quality is not that great, but it still seems visible. Samba says I am is now. Actually, now is in I am. Is it not? Yes, they are just words, but for me they are the same. Yes. Atma says my connection may be a bit better now. But we can use words in many ways, yes. So people on YouTube as well, if there's anything you want to share, please feel free to share. So the other thing I want to say quickly, is that we shouldn't be very scared of venturing into our mind. Basically, if we are scared of something in our mind, that fear is also projected into the world. We should go with the attitude that nothing in mind can really touch me. We should explore with the joy, because anything that becomes clear in the mind, the world becomes clearer, so to say. Because there is no world apart from the mind. The world is the mind. Everything that we see outside is just this here, So we can meet our mind with compassion. We can meet our mind with understanding. And we cannot really do that if we are scared of our own mind. So bit by bit, we can ask ourselves, what in our mind scares us? What is it in our mind that really triggers us?
I love what you said about loving the past. Can you hear me?
Yeah, bro, hello.
I said I loved what you said about loving the past.
Yeah.
I was just reading this Byron Katie thing yesterday. It really resonated with what you said. Maybe I just felt like reading 3 lines from there.
Yeah, please.
So the lines are: the whole world belongs to me because I live in the last story, the last dream. Woman sitting in chair with cup of tea. I look out the window, and whatever I see is my world. There's nothing beyond that. Not one thought. This world is enough for me. Anything I ever need to do or be is in this unlimited space. It's enough to accomplish my purpose, and my purpose is to sit here now and sip my tea. I just love this thing about loving the past. I just felt like sharing. It went very, very well with what you were saying.
Very, very, very good. As I said, I'm amazed how you and Ram always something to speak of in sharing. If I were at your place, I could speak only of love, maybe, and that would be boring to others. I don't think we're speaking about anything else but love here. Yeah, but I understand what you're saying. I'm sure, we'd love to, if you came up to speak, we'd love to hear you speak as well. Gobel says there is this person who always checks whether I'm behaving as person or self, as if he has two options. I like the last statement, as if he has two options. I feel like, there's nothing I can say to that because, in the last statement you say as if he has two options and you put a smiley there. Somehow conveys so much understanding. But I recognize that tendency as well, that um, this sense of checking that, am I behaving from the personal space? Am I behaving as the impersonal? I don't condemn that even because of that, I've discovered a lot of beliefs at times. Um,
Can I say something?
Please, my dear, please.
I'm sorry, I just had to walk away. My kids are here, but
That's okay. Please.
that part where you're talking about looking into your own fears
Yes.
or going with the mind, and something about this was going on here yesterday too. So I just noticed that the deeper you want to go with your mind, um, it does manifest as some energies in your body,
Yes.
like the fear, and the rest of it is all in the mind.
Yeah.
But there is still some lurking about actions based on thoughts.
I see. I see.
Even though I know it's not true, but
Yeah.
there is still a fear that if I go deeper and I face some thoughts that are not very pleasant,
Yes.
there would be actions, or I would become those thoughts, or there
Uh,
would be actions based on those thoughts.
I see. Okay. But
Um,
we are saying that that when we go deeper and look at these thoughts one by one, we're not necessarily saying that we believe them, right?
yes.
So ultimately, whatever thought that you encounter, it will not be believed in. It will just be seen through.
Hmm.
So no matter what, and the other thing, this is the um, beautiful thing about it is that even if you say that I'm going to act a certain way, this is the beautiful thing, that you can have assumptions based on even going into the mind. You may say that, I'm going to go into the mind, and you may decide that. But actually, it may just not happen. You may just feel like, I just want to sit, I just want to enjoy my cup of tea.
Yes.
I don't want to deal with the mind right now. It may happen like that. So what happened to your decision making? And at other times, you may be resisting it, saying that, I should be the self. I shouldn't be, playing around with the mind. I should be the self. And something wants to contemplate something. It's just moving like that. I've had this so many times, that I would have something so strongly wanting to look at something, and then I would have an assumption that, I thought, Papaji had said stop. Why am I not stopping? Why am I moving? It's just something wants to move. It's moving, that it doesn't mean anything in that sense. But I understand what you mean when they say that, some of these fears come up. What I'm trying to say is that what you're experiencing all the time is not the fruit of your actions, but the fruit of the assumptions of your actions. So if you assume that you become a person while acting, then you take on the fruits of that assumption, but not really the action. The action is just something, it belongs to a different realm. So if I have an expectation that I should be the self and I should completely be still, even externally, the moment body moves, I start to suffer because I have an expectation that I should be still. So even in these ways, we can see that thoughts and actions are independent.
Yes. Yes, it's actually interesting because there was like kind of a grace attack after I got my name.
Mm.
And it was nothing related to the name actually. And it's like the mind wants to actually, relate it to the naming. I don't even know if that is true or not.
Yes.
And then, once kind of that was over, there was this joy of just contemplating, which was actually never there present before. I was never interested in contemplating. I had no interest. I would never contemplate. I told Father I cannot, and there's no interest. But it's just there's this joy coming up, and like you said before, what is actually the point of this entire search? Like that thing came up yesterday too. Like what am I even searching for? Or I can't even put it in words, but even this like going with the mind, or yeah.
And this is where I said, there is no going into the mind that way because the mind is
Yes.
where it is, in a way. The mind, the world, consciousness, we can call it whatever we want to, but ultimately it's just the one thing.
Mm.
So irrespective of what you've decided to do, the flow just moves that way,
Yes.
and we have no choice over how it moves. And also, things like, you said there was a sense of grace attack, after the name was being given. If you just look at the energetic sensation of the body when it arises, it's actually quite nice, isn't it?
Yes.
Something is like so like, and then it's going to calm down like that. It's a bit like, If we know we have gone into a horror movie, we know it's not real. Isn't it so enjoyable? The more real the movie is, it's more enjoyable, is it not? We enjoy the movie because it's relatable. Consciousness is a kind of movie theater where you can pretend to be one of the characters in the movie. What kind of movie can do that? We have 3D, we have 4D, where we seem to be inside the movie, but we can never become a character in the movie. But in life, we can pretend to be a character in the movie. That's why we're all in love with it.
Yes, it's not even more about the energies in the body. I think that's, in my case, that's more easily handled than what goes on in the mind, or actually believing what's going on. And that's where I think, at least for me, it's sometimes can get to be a hassle.
It's just fine. I feel, I feel like, each of our paths, in a way, the way we move is different, I was always a bit, a bit contemplative, looking at things and, that way. So it's very natural for me to do that. But, it may not be that way for everyone.
You're breaking
Just
up a
dive.
little. I can't really make out what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm trying to say is that, the central point is thy will be done. If that is there,
Yes.
it doesn't matter what else you do after.
Yes.
It's game over. Come on.
Yes.
We can just enjoy everything after that, because it's thy will be done. How can, me enjoying be out of it either?
Actually, thy will is always done.
Thy will is all. Yes. Mhm. Atma saying, I feel I can't understand anything here anymore. What you're talking about. But just being here is great. Then she says, I mean, I understand words, but not more than that. I don't think even I know what I'm saying, but it feels like your words are coming to me and are going back to the space. Amazing. Without touching me at all. It's almost an hour now. Any final comments from anyone? Someone wants to sing a song? Anything? Jyotika, you want to say something? We were just thinking of soon ending the broadcast. So if you have any final comments, you want to say anything, or sing a song, or whatever, very welcome to do so.
I'm just happy to be here. Enjoy this.
I'll sing a song for you.
Yes, my dear, please.
Okay. Om Bhurbhuva Swaha Tatsaviturenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat Om Bhurbhuva Swaha Tatsaviturenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat Om Bhurbhuva Swaha Tatsaviturenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodayat.
Very beautiful. Atma says, I mean, it's positive thing, not negative. Yes, my dear, I know. Thank you so much, love. So much love, my dear. Atma says, I love your presence, so sweet energy. Love your presence too, my dear. It's so nice to have all of you here, and Amba to sing, Rashmi to share. It's very beautiful. I like it this way, interactive. Somehow it doesn't feel like one person talking and other people listening. It's always together. We are sharing our own experience, so no one's an authority here. Everyone's an equal authority, if we can say that way. Thank you all so very much for joining in. Sadhguru Shri Mudi Ji ki Jai. Ananta Ji ki Jai. Sangha ki Jai.
Jay. Thank you.
Thank you, my dear. Thank you for joining. Thank you for sharing in between as well. It was very beautiful to hear from you. Atma as well. Otherwise it's just like I'm speaking to a computer screen, Thank you, Jyotika, Rashmi, Ram, Nitya, Govil. We'll end the broadcast now.